Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk Bloomington Normal. I'm so excited that you're joining me here this morning. Good morning. We've got so much to get to. First, I want to talk about the 5 applicants for the McLean County Board District 1 vacancy. That was Catherine Metzger's district. Yes, she was squishy. People are like, oh man, I'm so disappointed about this split on the county board this past election. What happened was the Democrats got the majority on the county board, and it sucks. But to be honest with you folks, a lot of the Republicans on the county board voted with the Democrats anyway. And if you're just going to have squishes on the county board, I really don't care whose butt is in that seat, to be honest with you, because most Republicans that are on the county board are a little squishy. Catherine Metzger, I'll never forget this, and this is when I lost, respect for most Republicans on the county board. I won't say all, but most Republicans on the county board, kind of squishy. Illinois Republicans. I mean, this is crazy when you start to talk to people down south. They're actually Republicans. When you talk to Illinois Republicans, they're Democrats. So I don't know. It's just, I don't really care whose butt is in that seat because it's not going to be anybody who is a true conservative, who is truly Republican and votes accordingly, right? Catherine Metzger. She jumped on this like virtue signaling thing with the Mahomet Aquifer, where they were like, oh, we'll support legislation that protects state legislation that protects the Mahomet Aquifer from these carbon pipelines that they're planning to go underneath this Mahomet Aquifer, which is very, very bad for our drinking water. These things leak. They've been proven to leak. Go look it up. ADM's carbon pipeline. They've had leaks. And that's dangerous. There was actually in Mississippi a leak, a carbon pipeline leak, and people were like passing out. You couldn't go and save people because cars, ambulances, when there's that much carbon in the air, they just don't run. So they had to like find like electric four-wheelers, and they tried to like go and grab bodies that were passed out in Mississippi when one of these carbon pipelines leaked. And Illinois is all about these carbon pipelines. They're coming to McLean County, and the McLean County Board, instead of actually passing like an ordinance that says absolutely not here in this county, we're not going to risk the lives in the clean drinking water, the Mahomet Aquifer, for these green weenie projects, we're not going to do it here. Instead of actually doing something, they virtue signaled Catherine Metzger and Crystal Abel, and they said, yeah, we're going to pass a resolution saying that we'd be supportive of state legislation that protects the Mahomet Aquifer and says that you can't build pipelines here by the Mahomet Aquifer. We'd be supportive of that. Come on, do something. Do something. Okay, you're a government official. You can pass an ordinance and ban them in the county. And instead, you wanted to do this virtue signaling thing. And to me, that's a little squishy. Okay, and that's just the sentiment on the county board. Republicans, Democrats, they're all squishy. Some of them are rabid liberals. Crystal Abel, Corey Byrne, rabid liberals. So we're going to talk about the 5 applicants for this county board District 1 vacancy. We're also going to do this little fun story. I actually pulled this. This was at a Chicago Aldi. So the police pulled this coyote from a Chicago produce section at an Aldi. Yes, a coyote, not somebody who smuggles illegal immigrants into this country. We're talking about an animal. I guess it's mating season for coyotes. Did not know that, but be vigilant because I guess the coyotes are out. They can actually be very, very pesky because the coyotes can come and take your pets. I actually was talking to this fella. He told me about this time that his dog was out doing his business, and then this coyote comes up and just snatches it up, and he had to get the dog like a bunch of stitches and had to take it to the vet like for 5 weeks. It was insane. So be careful. Coyote mating season is upon us. Carrie Underwood, she delivers this patriotic response to her haters, for her haters. It's a patriotic response because guess what, folks? She is performing at the Trump inauguration. And I'm excited about it. My mom, there's just a weird personality that you develop when you listen to Taylor Swift music. And my mom was awesome because she had like I wasn't ever into Taylor Swift music. Instead of like Taylor Swift, my mom growing up always had me listen to Carrie Underwood. Bought me Carrie Underwood CDs, and I didn't buy into that whole Taylor Swift thing. And I think that my mom is the reason why. I think even back then she realized that Taylor Swift was a bad influence. And I grew up on Carrie Underwood, like all these T-Swifties out here. I'm like Carrie Underwood. I love Carrie Underwood. Jesus take the wheel. She's always been a very outspoken Christian, and my mom thought she was a great role model. And I listened to her music on CD and not Taylor Swift. My mom did not allow me to listen to Taylor Swift because she probably knew back then that she was a terrible influence. A lot of her songs were about boys, and she just wasn't my mom's cup of tea. And I'm glad, hey, kids listening, listen to your parents. They know what they're talking about. Okay, so Carrie Underwood, she's going to be performing at the Trump inauguration, and I'm so pumped for that. Let's get to the McLean County Board seat. This is from BLN News. This is an email that was received by one of the applicants. There are 5 applicants for the seat. We know that Catherine Metzger, she stepped down from that seat, so now it needs to be filled by a Republican, 5 people. And the last time this happened, this was John McIntyre, who retired his seat, County Board District 5. And I talked extensively about Chad Burke, who was the applicant who was grilled by Lizzie Johnston, who is now the county board chairman. She has it out for this guy. So when he was an applicant, you have to go before the executive committee. There's several committees with the McLean County Board. There's the Finance Committee, the Executive Committee, Land Use Committee. So Lizzie Johnson had it out for Chad Burke, asked him, very inappropriate questions. He was a victim of a crime. He had to live through his PTSD and his trauma all over again because she asked him about this time where he was stabbed several times. If I'm not mistaken, it's like close to like 19 times, a ridiculous amount of times this guy was stabbed in his own front yard. And she made him sound with her line of questioning as if it was his fault and he had to relive this trauma. And instead of, maybe sending an email if she really wanted to know about why he was arrested rather than the stabber, who had a history of threatening to stab people, by the way, instead of, sending an email, talking to him, pulling him aside, having the respect, she decided to blast out this incident in a very public format during the executive committee hearing, where they take or ask questions of the applicants and then they have to respond. They did it again. Okay, they used their position of authority to make people uncomfortable, and I'm not here for it. So BLN News, they've got this email. The applicants received this email. This is from Lizzie Johnson, like I said, the chairwoman. Thank you for coming yesterday to the interview. Local government is only as strong as the quality of those willing to step up and serve. I am grateful for your interest in the position. After discussing timelines with staff, I discovered I'm not required to have the choice determined by this afternoon. It gives me more time to hear feedback from the other 18 board members. I apologize for pushing back the decision deadline, but we'll be reaching out no later than Wednesday afternoon to all candidates with my decision. So Wednesday afternoon this time. So today they should be coming to a decision. The executive committee, they make this decision. There's only one, or the county board, they make this decision. The executive committee, they're tasked with, provide or asking questions, and then the candidates answer those questions. So 5 people applied. Let's get to the people. The executive committee questioned them all the other night. Jim Fisher, David Kennedy, Andy Zybarth, Ryan McKenzie, Joshua Lieb. Okay, so these are the candidates for the McLean County Board District seat 1. 1 is the vacant one. 5 was vacant a couple of years ago. Chad Burke had tried to fill that seat. So completely fair, completely balanced. You would think that the executive committee had, a few Republicans, a few Democrats. No, folks. The executive committee, of course, is stacked up with not just leftists, but extreme leftists like Crystal Abel, Corey Byrne, Val Lehman, Leah Klein, Jim Rogel. You guys know Jim Rogel. He takes money from the Tides Foundation through a dark money group. That's how he won his election this last go around. And Lizzie Johnson, of course, on the executive committee. There's one Republican, folks. That's William Friedrich. Okay, Bill Friedrich. So in the spirit, of fair, balanced Democrats like they are, they, of course, stacked this executive committee full of Democrats, and, it's not balanced at all. And, of course, we all know that Crystal Abel and Corey Byrne are extreme leftists. Take a listen to this. I pulled some of the questions that were asked of the candidates. This one's rather interesting. You've got Ryan McKenzie here. From El Paso, works in the El Paso School District, a good friend of mine. If it were up to me, folks, I would select Jim Fisher or Ryan McKenzie. I think they're both great candidates. I don't know the other ones all that well. I know that they're probably going to go with the guy who works at State Farm, the squish. So I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think that they're going to go for a Ryan McKenzie, a Jim Fisher, who would definitely have a Republican record. And here's the thing, folks, to remember. County Board District 1 is red, 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 red. Okay, if you look at that district, it's all farming communities. There's just a little sliver of normal. And whoever is supposed to be in that district, whoever is supposed to represent that district, should represent the interests of the people in that district. And I'm telling you right now, the people in County Board District 1 are Republicans. And I'm not talking squishy Republicans. I'm not talking virtue signaling Republicans like Catherine Metzger. I'm talking Jim Fisher, Ryan McKenzie type Republican. Okay, that's who lives in that district. But take a listen to this. This is Ryan McKenzie. He was questioned by Corey Byrne. We all know Corey Byrne, definitely far left. Take a listen to this.
Any other questions from the committee? Yes, Member Byrne.
Mr. McKenzie, thank you for coming in. You have quite the digital presence. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit.
So much of your digital presence in the same space is known conspiracy theorists, extremists, and purveyors of misinformation. Do you personally believe that human-caused climate change is real?
I don't think this is the setting for that. I'm just here to talk about representing the District 1.
So that's not a yes then?
That's not a topic that I'm going to get into. It's not really related to this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Member Abel.
Actually, let's stick around. Let's see what Crystal Abel. I haven't heard.
We haven't really heard anything about why you want to serve on the county board, or what skills, leadership qualities that you have that you plan to bring to the table if you're appointed. Could you address that, please?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, young in the gills for any kind of local government. The experience, sometimes you can have too much experience. You're in it too long. Maybe you're tired out of it. I think this day and age, having limited experience helps, because it's a new idea, new body, just a fresh look on maybe the different answers to things that come up. How else are you going to get experience unless you run in and do it? So that's how I look at it. I mean, I live in a small town. I represent the small towns in District 1. And that's why I want to join the county board.
Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about Corey Byrne's question real quick. He asks him, of course, about climate change. And if anybody is still believing in human-caused climate change, which I'm not saying is completely fabricated, but it's definitely not it when talking about climate change, which I think is a total hoax. But when talking about climate change, human-caused climate change, definitely not something even worth talking about. Okay, let's look at what the Chinese are doing. Let's look at what all of these other countries are doing with the electric vehicles, the mining, the child labor that they are using when mining these lithium batteries. Let's talk about their carbon footprint, all of these other countries, whereas the United States, our carbon emissions is not even near some of these other countries. So let's talk about these other countries and what they're doing in their countries. to contribute to so-called carbon emissions, okay? Because that's what they're talking about when they're talking about climate change, they're talking about carbon emissions. And anyone who still believes in climate change isn't following the science. They're definitely not following the Bible in Matthew. It very clearly states that heaven and earth are going to pass away, but my words will never pass away. Quote, but about the day or hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven nor the Son. Not even Jesus knows when the earth will pass away. But the Father knows, as in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. So when Jesus comes back, the earth will pass away. His words will never pass away. They're forever. Scripture forever. But heaven and earth will pass away. We are told this. So I don't know why people are so alarmed by this. We're told that, yes, the earth will pass away, and there's nothing you can do about it because you don't know when it's going to happen. Only the Father knows. Not even Jesus knows when that's going to happen. So to ask him about climate change, clearly just a nut job. Like, come on. You're going to ask about climate change? This is County Board District 1. I can tell you right now, everybody who lives in that district probably believes climate change is a hoax, which it is. It's a whole scam to try to get the Chinese to get their windmills over here, their solar panels, at the expense of human lives, by the way. Solar panels constantly combusting. In Olympia School District, we saw that happening, the solar panels catching on fire. Okay. The electric vehicles in the Ripon parking lot catching on fire, windmills coming down, and windmills actually take way more, like, to grease that up, all the oil that it takes to grease up and the gas, they actually have, people don't know this, they actually have a gas motor within inside those windmills. It takes gas to run those things. They're not just turning on their own, okay? It's a scam, so that way the Chinese and the Chinese can sell their solar panels and their electric vehicles and their windmills to the United States, and they get filthy rich doing it, okay? So that's what climate change is really all about. One of the 5 applicants, according to BLN News, hasn't recently voted in a Republican primary. That's pretty good sign that you are a rhino if you're not running, or if you're not voting consistently in Republican primaries. I like how Diane Benjamin puts it. Maybe he can't find time in the 40 days that it takes to vote in the primary. We have 40 days, think of this, in each election to vote. And if you didn't go out and vote, the reason why is probably because you don't want to, okay? So yeah, there's one of the 5 applicants, probably a rhino. Maybe he doesn't want to make sure that the best Republican candidates advance to the general election. Where, he might be in this mix. You might have somebody in this mix who is, trying to get this seat, and whoever gets this seat in the general election, the next go around when that seat is up again, they have an advantage if they've already filled that seat or if they're already in that seat. So there might be a rhino in there to try to, rock the waters a little bit. I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. We'll be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more about this seat, and then we're going to shift gears, talk a little bit about Carrie Underwood performing at the inauguration. Hey, go ahead and smash the like button. Yes, Ryan McKenzie talking about, hey, I don't have a ton of experience, but really my lack of experience probably is a good thing. The interesting thing here about Ryan talking about, his lack of experience and how that's kind of attractive nowadays is that it almost mirrors what's going on with Pete Hegseth. We're going to get to a clip of Tammy Duckworth just completely grilling Pete Hegseth because he hasn't conducted an audit before. I'm sorry, but all it really takes is a defense secretary is to know, hey, the military has one job, and the military is supposed to protect the United States and be strong and be fighting machines. People within the military are supposed to be fighting machines. So Pete Hegseth naturally says, I'm against DEI. It has to all be merit-based and physical requirement-based. And, his lack of experience, I think, actually is better because look at Lloyd Austin, what kind of failures and what kind of experiences he has. Okay, so Lloyd Austin has all of the experience in the world, but the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was completely abysmal, we lost 13 service members. Not to mention, DEI, having all of these people in the military who aren't qualified. Not to mention, he took medical leave, Lloyd Austin, without notifying the president. He left billions and billions of dollars of worth of military equipment in Afghanistan. And I'm going to just say it, perhaps a guy without all of this institutional baggage is the better bet. Let's talk about Lizzie Johnson. Okay, sure, she has all kinds of experience. But guess what happened with Lizzie Johnston? Let me actually pull this up. This story. I'm going to do it right now. I should have pulled this ahead of time. Okay, so we have a candidate who was Chad Burke. She had it out for him from the beginning. Clearly, it's a pattern of, disdain and clearly she doesn't like Chad Burke. Okay, when he had filed an application for County Board District 5, she questioned him and made him relive a traumatic experience where he was stabbed instead of doing, I don't know, the human thing, pulling him aside, asking him about it if she was truly curious. Instead, she decided to broadcast this over a very public platform, which was an executive committee hearing. But, Lizzie Johnson, she's got all of this experience, sure. But guess what? This former county board candidate, so Chad Burke, he actually ran after he had tried to, apply to the County Board District 5. He ran in the election in 2024, this past election. He filed an official complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections alleging McLean County officials, Lizzie Johnson, violated the Campaign Disclosure Act. Okay, so, to sit there and grill somebody about their experience, a lot of times these people with experience use that experience and do all kinds of bad things with that experience, i.e. Lloyd Austin took medical leave without notifying the president, leaving billions and billions of dollars there in Afghanistan with the Afghanistan withdrawal. But Chair Lizzie Johnson and the county administrator, Cassie Taylor, have been accused by a former attorney who worked in the state's attorney's office, Trevor Sierra, of soliciting and collecting funds for a political action committee established to support a referendum eliminating the county auditor position. Okay, so you guys all know this story. Lizzie Johnson, went around, Cassie Taylor, they went around collecting these donations, allegedly. There should be an investigation to determine the facts. But, sometimes people with experience can do things like this. And it's very, very possible that this happened. Now we'll have to see the results of the investigation or the results of the Illinois State Board of Elections if they comment on this issue or if they, investigate this complaint. But in this letter drafted by Trevor Sierra here, he talks about how all of the solicitations happened at the government center. No promises or threats were made regarding the contributions. I regret my participation in these activities. I offer my sincere apologies to the county auditor, Michelle Anderson, each of you, and most importantly, the taxpayers of McLean County. And Burke explained that, the question in my head here is, did they collect funds in the race against me? They were going around collecting all of these funds for this referendum question. What if they took that money and they put it towards, Lizzie Johnson to run against me in the County Board District 5? That's the question, who ran against Chad Burke, ran against Johnson in this year's election for County Board. He was defeated. And he said, without an investigation, he can't deny Johnston could have used those collected funds in her own race against him. This is illegal. If this was done, it's illegal. State law clearly states that you can't do this type of behavior. Trevor Sierra no longer works with the state's attorney's office. Chad Burke at the time, filing the complaint here, he says, say you're a maintenance guy for the county, and the county administrator and the vice chair of the county board go around collecting donations, and you put up $100, you won't hesitate because you don't want to lose your job. These people have an influence over your job. They have an influence as leadership position. And sometimes people use their experience or even their leadership roles to commit atrocities, such as, Lloyd Austin in the Afghan withdrawal, or here, even something as simple as possibly allegedly violating campaign finance law. Hey, good morning, Sue. Appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Yes, I like what Ryan had to say here about experience. The lack of experience, I think, is an attractive trait in a politician. Lloyd Austin had all of the experience in the world, right? And had Lloyd Austin had the lack of experience, or had not the experience like, Hegseth. We've been talking about Hegseth. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth. He's going through Senate hearings right now. And, he lacks this, laundry list of titles and experience. But had Lloyd Austin, had this lack of experience, I think that 13 service members would be alive today. I think that the Afghanistan withdrawal wouldn't have been so terrible had we had somebody in there like Pete Hegseth, who has a lack of experience. He left behind billions of dollars of military equipment. He took medical leave without telling the president that he was going to take medical leave. Maybe a guy without institutional baggage and a professional politician, a professional government official, perhaps a guy without all of that, is a better bet. And that goes for the county board as well. Ryan McKenzie doesn't have, this plethora of experience, but neither does anybody in your community. Probably, if you were to go ask people or your neighbors, who's your current state representative, they're not going to know, likely, right? And I think that having a lack of experience on the county board is actually attractive. Look what people do. Allegedly, we've got government officials, McLean County government official Cassie Taylor, now county board chair Lizzie Johnson, facing accusations here that they violated Campaign Disclosure Act, the Campaign Disclosure Act. And that's not me saying it. That's an attorney who worked in the state's attorney's office, Trevor Sierra. He accused, really in this email, the government officials who have all of this experience, Cassie Taylor, Lizzie Johnson, of soliciting and collecting funds for a political action committee established in support of the referendum to get rid of the county auditor. Okay, we know this story. Chad Burke, he filed a complaint with the Illinois State Board of Elections. He ran against Johnson in this recent election, the 2024 election for county board. He was defeated. And he said, without an investigation, folks, I can't deny that Lizzie Johnson didn't collect these funds and use them in the race against me. Okay, so experience, I really don't care. You can give me a CVS receipt, long laundry list of what your accomplishments are. And to be honest with you, I really could care less. I think that your lack of experience would actually be better because you wouldn't go out and use that leadership position. You wouldn't go out and use that experience to do nefarious things. Lloyd Austin, I think he uses, there's something about people who have this plethora of experience or all of these titles. They think that they are better than you, and they think that they can get away with things like, possibly violating, and I'm not saying anybody did, there needs to be an investigation, allegedly violating the Campaign Disclosure Act. People with experience think that they can take medical leave and not inform the President of the United States. And nobody informed the President of the United States, Lloyd Austin, that's what he did. People with experience tend to think they're better than you, tend to think that there are no consequences for their actions. And Lloyd Austin, that's what led him to leave all of that military equipment in Afghanistan, billions of dollars of military equipment. So I think the lack of experience is a good thing. Before I took the break, I was telling you about rhinos. I think there's a couple, maybe, rhinos in this list of Republicans going for the County Board District 1 seat that has been left vacant by Catherine Metzger. We know Corey Byrne questioned Ryan McKenzie about climate change. That was definitely not the format for that. He's not a national candidate. I don't even understand how climate change really affects maybe like windmills, if you're going to be pro windmill. So the question would be, okay, Ryan McKenzie, are you pro windmill? Do you think windmills are a good invest, or do you think that we should have more windmills in your district? That would have been a better question than, do you believe in human caused climate change? But clearly Corey doesn't. I don't know if he knows in Matthew chapter, I think it's like 24, heaven and earth are going to pass away, man. The words won't, scripture won't, God's words won't pass away, but heaven and earth are going to pass away. So you can just take great peace with that. Just have peace about the earth passing away. It's going to happen. Nobody knows when, not even the angels, not even the Son, but the Father knows. And you just need to relax, okay, about the climate change. Don't be so alarmed by it. But like I said, there's 5 applicants. There's at least one, according to BLN News, that hasn't voted in a Republican primary. And here's what they do all of the time. They'll throw a rhino in there, somebody who is very, very squishy rhino, and they want to get somebody in there temporarily who is a rhino, because they want to take away any kind of momentum for a Ryan McKenzie, a Jim Fisher, in the general election, if they were to advance to the general election and run for that seat again in the general election. Because once you're in that seat, that's momentum, because then you can say, hey, I've searched you before. I did a great job. Vote for me in this election. Now, they probably want to make sure that these good Republican candidates don't get that seat. So that's why there's a rhino thrown in there. But this Democrat committee, like I said, there's one Republican on the executive committee, which, that's so fair. That's so balanced. Don't you just love that? This Democrat committee, they're going to be notifying the applicants today, this afternoon, according to an email that was sent out to applicants. Don't be surprised if they pick Andy Zybarth. I kind of guessed this, State Farm guy. I don't know. Maybe he's a fantastic guy. I am willing to bet that they're going to either pick him. Maybe the Joshua Lieb is the other candidate here. But I doubt that they're going to pick most likely it's going to be Andy. So, the Democrats don't want to pick a hard Republican, a hard R, which would be Jim Fisher, a Ryan McKenzie. They want somebody squishy. They want somebody that's good for their agenda, for their windmill agenda in that district. So, like I said, Metzger was squishy too, so I'm not going to be all upset about this. If Andy gets in, it is what it is. Catherine Metzger was kind of squishy too as a Republican, and she always voted with Democrats anyway, and would signal with the leftist Democrats, Crystal Label. So I'm not going to be all bent out of shape if Andy gets in. I'm not going to be all bent out of shape if a soft Republican gets in, because we had a soft Republican in there anyway. Now, I would be more upset if Catherine Metzger was like, a hard R conservative. I would be pretty upset, but I'm not too bent out of shape over this one. But congratulations to all the candidates who applied. It takes a lot of cojones to even apply and to go before this hearing. To go before this committee of all Democrats. So good luck. Good luck. You'll know probably by this afternoon, according to this email that was released by BLN News. Okay, I want to shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about the Chicago police and how they pulled out this coyote. I think that this is a funny story for your Wednesday morning. The Chicago police, they pulled out a coyote out of this refrigerated produce section at an Aldi grocery store. You know it's bad when coyotes are shoplifting. And of course, I'm talking about the animal, not people who smuggle in illegal immigrants. Okay, so this was really interesting to watch because this coyote clearly scared. I can't help but feel bad for the little guy. I feel a little bad for him, although I can't stand coyotes because coyotes are just really a nuisance. Okay, they'll go after your animals. They knock over my trash can all the time. Take a listen to this. This is a fun clip. We've got a couple of cops here, and this coyote is tucked in between the shelves here in the produce section of Aldi. Take a listen. Okay. He's got like a broom or something, and he's trying to get the coyote to kind of come out. And they're like looking in there, and then all of a sudden you start to see this cop tug on the leg here of this coyote, like he's on the legs of the coyote. And he gets it out, and guess what? The coyote jumps right back into the shelf of Aldi. And it's truly incredible to kind of watch. But the coyote was taken to Flint Creek Wildlife Rehabilitation, which has locations in Chicago and suburban Barrington. So the rehab center said one of its volunteers picked up the coyote from the Chicago Animal Care and Control, and they brought him to their facility. And the coyote is unharmed, they said, but he is scared, this group said. This Flint Creek Wildlife Rehabilitation Center in a post. We will return him to the wild when he's ready. I have my issues with coyotes. Like I said, tip over your trash. They roam freely, a lot in Illinois, and they devour your small pets. And I can't help but feel bad for him when I watch this video, though. I feel really bad for this poor guy. He probably had no idea that he was going to end up on this refrigerated shelf. He genuinely looked confused and horrified. So this officer tugs on his feet and gets him out of there. And he slowly pulls him out of the produce shelves, and it's truly a startling scene. But they took custody of the coyote. Animal Care and Control in Chicago did, and the Chicago police. They're what's called opportunistic feeders, like raccoons, okay? And most likely this little pup just wanted a snack. He just wanted a snack. He wanted to go in Aldi and get a snack. And this is what the rehabilitation center said on Facebook. They said, we theorize that the coyote entered an open door of the grocery store trying to escape from human traffic and then hid in the refrigerated section in an attempt to hide from the humans inside of the store. He was hungry. He was scared. And everybody knows that you do things you regret when you're hungry. So he goes in there and he probably wanted a snack. Now he probably regrets it because now he's at this rehab center and he's like, oh man, I just want to go back to the wild. You'll get there, buddy. You just are a little scared. They're going to fix you up. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate it. Ryan, thanks for joining me. Appreciate you tuning in. Yeah, we'll see if they pick you. Hoping they sneak me in. But you're right. The squishy safe pick is probably what they'll do. If Lizzie Johnson is consulting the rest of the county board, perhaps you have a shot, Ryan. But I would imagine that a squishy pick would better serve the Democrat majority because they're thinking, Democrats they live for politics. You live a life and politics is kind of like a hobby or, something that is secondary in your life. Democrats don't have a life outside of politics. Politics are their life. So they're in their headspace. They're already thinking about the election, the upcoming election. And the last thing that they would want is a hard Republican with momentum in that county board district seat. So if you are a hard Republican, or if you are, I don't even want to say hard Republican. I want to say like just regular Republican. Okay. So Republicans, they're just, Democrats. A Southern Democrat, I would actually say, is more Republican or votes with Republican ideals more so than an Illinois Republican. Okay, so a Southern Democrat is even, I would say better at voting with a Republican agenda than an Illinois Republican is. But when I say Republican, I mean somebody who's just going to vote the ideals, low taxes, cutting taxes. We're not going to do this government subsidies for these windmills to go up. We're not going to allow foreign countries to eat up our precious farmland with things like solar panels and windmills. If you're just, hey, let's take a step back here and let's not subsidize China with paying for these windmills and solar panels and paying these companies with taxpayer dollars to come and prop up their, solar panels that inevitably will catch on fire, or windmills which will inevitably fall to the ground. If you just take that position, then you are just crazy conservative. You're a conspiracy theorist. You're QAnon, right? That's what the Democrats on the McLean County Board think. And they don't want a Republican in there at all. So they're going to take a squish, somebody who's probably pretty apolitical, doesn't even really vote in the primaries. Maybe a friend of a Democrat at work, State Farm. A lot of Democrats work at State Farm. A lot of Republicans do too. I'm not saying that, but, they reach out to their, friend who's a little apolitical, might lean right, this Democrat, and they're like, hey, you would be a great pick for the county board district seat 1. Why don't you apply? And he says, okay, sure, that sounds awesome. I'm apolitical, or I'm a nice guy. And he's the apolitical guy, which can be talked out of running for an election, or for that county board district seat 1 election. Or even if he does run, they can guarantee that somebody will vote with their agenda every single time. But like I said, Catherine Metzger was already voting a lot with their agendas. So if we got a Ryan Mack, if we got a Jim Fisher, that would be awesome. But unfortunately, I don't know. I'm willing to bet it's going to be Andy. But we'll see. But congratulations to all the applicants who applied, even Andy. A friend probably told him, go ahead and try to apply. And he was like, sure. And Democrats have this way of using you, and you don't even realize it. So I hope that that's not the case with Andy, but Democrats will use you and abuse you, and they'll spit you out. Look at our friend Adam Kingsinger. Okay. Perfect example of somebody who was used by the Democrat Party and was spit out. He's like, I don't even think he's got a CNN gig anymore. So that's the Democrats' MO. They try to make it sound like, I know that you think differently than me, but I want you to be, because I'm all for diversity of thought. And then when it comes down to it, they're going to force you into voting for their agenda. And then they're going to make it to where you won't run in the general. They'll run, a candidate against you, and they'll get you out of that seat. So it's just a game, because they have time to play it. You and I, we have families, we have lives. We don't want to be sucked into this political game. But Democrats live for this. That's why they will always win here in this state, because we're too busy farming our communities. We're too busy working our butts off, middle class folks here in Illinois. And we're never going to beat the Democrats at their own game, or at the corrupt game, because we don't want to play it. If you're playing checkers with somebody and somebody doesn't really want to play, chances are you're going to beat them every single time. Hey, good morning, Sudu. Appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. The inauguration of Donald Trump is Monday, and there's going to be some performers, and I'm so excited. Before I took a break, I was telling you a little bit about the coyote season. It's mating season. The point of this story that I brought to you about this coyote running into this oldie and jumping into the shelves of the produce section, the refrigerated shelves of the produce section at this Chicago oldie. The reason why I brought this up was, hey, it's mating season. Make sure when you're taking your pets out that you're watching them, especially if you live in like a wooded area. I actually know a fella, he had to take his little dog in because this coyote got him, and he was just like in and out of the vet's office like for a couple of years because this coyote did some damage to this little pup of his. So just be careful. I do want to talk about the inauguration because Kid Rock, Jason Aldean, Rascal Flatts, that was kind of surprising. I think Rascal Flatts is going to be performing. I gotta double check that. I was kind of shocked by that. But another one that really shocked me, and I know that Carrie Underwood is performing America the Beautiful before Trump takes the oath of office. And not everyone is happy about the news. Want to know who doesn't care? Who's not about the people who are unhappy about this news of Carrie Underwood performing at the inauguration? Carrie Underwood, she could care less. So there were a bunch of idiots on the internet already, out there saying, I'm outraged. And they say, I'm never, ever going to listen to Carrie Underwood music ever again. She could probably care less. She has done very, very well in her career, and she's kind of at the end of her career. And I don't think that she's too concerned about losing a couple of audience members because she, is performing at this inauguration. A lesser artist here, Taylor Swift, would beg for forgiveness. And that's not what Taylor Swift here did, because she is a great artist. My mom back in the day, she had me listen to Carrie Underwood, and I kind of wanted to listen to Taylor Swift a little bit. My sister loved Taylor Swift. My mom always said that, Taylor Swift wasn't the best role model. She always talked about boys in her songs, and Carrie Underwood talked about Jesus in her songs. Jesus Take the Wheel, a big one. So I'm thankful that my mom, kids, listen up, your parents know what they're talking about. I'm thankful that my mom kind of pushed me into Carrie Underwood versus Taylor Swift. I probably am the individual I am today because I listened to not crap, which is Taylor Swift. But Carrie Underwood, great artist. A lesser artist would apologize for forgiveness for people who don't support their work anyway. A lot of these people who are outraged about Carrie Underwood performing at the inauguration, they probably don't support her or buy her CDs or anything like that. They probably are passive listeners anyway. Underwood, what she did, she had a response ready, anticipating the haters, of course. She had a response ready for when the haters in the media came asking, hey, why are you performing at the inauguration? She gave this patriotic response. I've got it here on the other side of this break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button. I'm actually going to try to look this up. Now, I've heard, and I didn't find it, Jim Fisher was actually questioned. Jim Fisher, I've actually had one of the foreign exchange students that he's taken in and housed. That's what Jim Fisher does. He's an amazing guy, just a true man of God, incredible character to take in foreign exchange students. If you do that, I'm a youth leader, and I actually have a foreign exchange student in our class at the TAB, our youth group at the TAB. And I know our parents are upstanding members of this community. And the people who take in foreign exchange students, the best people on earth, because they're willing to do, something for somebody else who might not, one, look like them, two, have the same culture as them, but they're willing to learn. And these are genuine people. This is not your virtue signaling, multiculturalism. Multiculturalism is so cool. I discussed this yesterday. Multiculturalism is bad. It's the belief that all cultures are equal. And people who take in foreign exchange students, people who are actually advocates of the immigrant community, and now notice what I'm choosing my words very carefully here. Foreign exchange students are not illegal immigrants. Foreign exchange students are immigrants here on a temporary student visa, typically. So they're not illegal. They went through a proper channel. They got their credentials, and they've been identified by the United States, and they've been approved to come to school here. Okay. So I've actually talked to a foreign exchange student. She was from, I want to say, Iran. She was great to talk to. And she talked about the culture in her country. And the reason why she was going to school here is because the culture in her country, they look down upon women who want to educate themselves. Okay, so she comes here, and not all cultures are equal. Some cultures are worse than others. Some cultures believe in things like child marriage. Marrying children is okay. So I think they even asked him about his stance on illegal immigration, considering he takes in foreign exchange students. Jim Fisher, being that he's an upstanding member of this community of McLean County, and he does that, they used it as an opportunity to question him on his position on illegal immigration, which is very, very silly because foreign exchange student, illegal immigration, totally two different topics. Okay, we're not talking about illegal immigration when we're talking about foreign exchange students. Okay, illegal immigration is somebody who hops the border through not a legal port of entry, and typically continues to, and most of the time continues to break the law in this country. Brr, it's a cold morning. It's -1 degrees. I just actually looked at this. -1 today. Wow. I'm not surprised by that. Sorry, squirrel moment. I looked at my in my degree, my temperature. I have an icon here on my computer, and I like looked over, and I was like, whoa. I was like, wait a second. That's pretty cold. We're going to come back. We're going to be talking a little bit about Carrie Underwood performing at the inauguration. And I've got more news ahead. We are going to get to Pete Hegseth and the Senate hearings because that's really important stuff, guys. We'll be right back. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in. I looked it up. Yes, Village People, Rascal Flatts, Carrie Underwood, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, Billy Ray Cyrus, I think, also added to the list of performers performing at the inauguration. So exciting. I can't wait to watch it. So there's already people on the internet, idiots, who are blasting Carrie Underwood because she decided to perform America the Beautiful right before Trump takes the oath of office. Here is what Carrie said to all of the haters on the internet and all of the haters in the media who came asking, why would you do that? Orange man bad. She says, quote, I love our country. I'm honored to have been asked to sing at the inauguration and be a small part of this historic event. I'm humbled to answer the call at a time when we must all come together in the spirit of unity, and I'm looking forward to the future. Okay, so I am also looking forward to the future, Carrie Underwood. I'm really looking forward to the future. John Retch, he took to social media and he asked people to repost a tweet saying you're proud of Carrie Underwood for agreeing to sing at the Trump inauguration. He goes, I know I'm proud of her. She needs to hear from the masses. Hit that button, repost this tweet if you're proud of Carrie Underwood. That's what John Rich said on social media. I'm going to come back. We're going to wrap that story up. And plus, I do want to talk about, I've got a story about the GOP senator who went scorched earth on the Democrat hypocrisy over Pete Hegseth. He was taking part in some hearings. We're going to cover Pete Hegseth's hearings here in the top of the hour. Hey, good morning. So do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. Before break, I was telling you a little bit about Carrie Underwood performing at the inauguration, Rascal Flatts, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock. There's so many people who are performing, and I'm so excited. January 20th, just days before, is a perfect time for not only celebrities, just speak out, speak out for unity and bring Americans together. If you work at State Farm and you don't really like the pronouns in your bio, speak out and say, hey, now is the time for unity. You can't force your political nonsense on me anymore. In the spirit of unity, why don't you just stop this mandate of me putting my pronouns in my email signature? Okay. So this is a perfect time for not only celebrities, but yourself to come out and speak out for unity. Carrie Underwood, she gave this really patriotic statement for the haters, of course, on the internet and those in the media. And she said, look, I love my country, and I'm honored to have been asked to sing at the inauguration and be a small part of this historic event. I'm humbled to answer the call at a time when we must all come together in the spirit of unity and looking to the future. So much much of the surprise of Underwood being announced is that she isn't known for getting political. Okay, she's not really known. She's kind of stayed out of it. We all know that she's very outspoken about her faith, but she's always stayed out of politics. Now, there was some outrage a few years ago. Maybe you remember this, when Carrie Underwood, she didn't even make an anti-mask post herself, like anti-masking during COVID. She smashed the like button on social media on this anti-mask post. Okay, so she didn't make the post. She merely liked someone else's post on the internet. The internet is a silly place. And then everybody said that that was political. But I'm going to say she was probably on the right side of history here with that one. If you're wearing a mask, you're mentally ill, by the way. Sorry, hot take, but if you're wearing a mask in 2025, that's unusual. And you were on the right side of history for being anti-mask back in 2020. So an argument can be made that that wasn't political, but even if it was, she was just being on the right side of history, and she was just, liking somebody's anti-mask post. She didn't even make the post herself. What I find surprising is that more and more apolitical celebrities aren't taking this opportunity to come out and be more outspoken. Maybe you lean right? And you're a celebrity. Clearly, this sanctimonious crap in the entertainment industry didn't work. You had all kinds of entertainers come out and endorse Kamala Harris. None of that worked. They, are anti-middle class, for an anti-middle class agenda. A lot of these people in the entertainment industry, clearly that was rejected. Rejected this last election, the anti-middle class agenda that a lot of these people in the entertainment industry subscribe to. So I would hope that a lot of these celebrities start to come out. If you're apolitical or if you lean right, come out and speak for unity, speak for Donald Trump, wish him well, pray for him, and look forward to the future like Carrie Underwood. Look, this election loss, I would hope that some celebrities would begin to ponder the consequences of the policies that they support, or at least their PR teams support. Everybody supported Kamala Harris. Everybody supports Democrats. And I would hope that some of these celebrities now, especially in LA, are pondering their decisions to not only vote for these people, but endorse them or have their PR teams endorse them. Julia Roberts, she says, screw you to the looters, as $10 million homes are continued to be robbed and looted. During the LA fires, criminals are taking the opportunity and they're looting. I've seen even some video footage of people starting fires. They're criminals who are starting fires. They're probably starting the fire in order to loot, and they're taking advantage either of the wildfires or of the natural fires and looting, or they're starting fires and then they're going in and they're looting these $10 million homes. And now Julia Roberts is out there saying, screw you to the looters. And look, nobody's home should be looted. I'm not saying that, but it really bothers me when you have people like Julia Roberts who have supported policies and candidates who have created the mess that they're in. And, she's only getting mad now because it affects her and affects them, these celebrities. And, they didn't seem too upset about it, because of the inner city Walgreens that was looted. They didn't seem too upset when, it didn't affect them. People who have to go to Walgreens, middle class folks who have to go to Walgreens and do their own grocery shopping. And that's pretty scummy to be, all up in arms about this looting when it comes to your $10 million home. But what about, the looting that's been going on for years and years and years now, since Joe Biden really has been president, the looting that's been going on at your local Walgreens or CVS or Walmart, where they're locking up deodorant sticks. Okay, so like I said, if you're a celebrity who keeps your opinions to yourself, now might be the time to start speaking out. If you're right-leaning, it is the perfect time because there is a clear culture shift happening in America. Carrie Underwood, Rascal Flatts, the Village People, Jason Aldean. There's a clear shift happening in American culture, and now is the time to get on board, even if it's not about a specific policy. I do think that you need to be well-read and understand topics and be passionate about the topic if you're going to come out and, support policies or support candidates. But now is the time. There's a clear shift. If you are a right-leaning or even a political celebrity, now is the time to make your voice heard. It is time to speak out for unity. And we had an election where America made a clear choice. And on the 21st, everybody can go back to arguing. But now I think it's the time to pull together and, be in the spirit of unity and realize that the majority of America has spoken. They want to make America great again. All right, I want to shift gears. Let's talk about Pete Hegseth, the confirmation hearing. It was a total clown show. Speaking of celebrities, we are going to get to Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel quite literally was weeping, and he lashed out at Donald Trump for saying that the LA firefighters weren't white enough, which is not true. Donald Trump did not say that. And he, goes on this rant about Donald Trump and the LA firefighters. So we're going to get Jimmy Kimmel a little bit later, but let's start with Pete Hegseth, okay? Someone should really inform the Democrats that the most obnoxious, the loudest person in the room, that doesn't automatically make you the winner of an argument. Okay, so I think all of these Democrats really just wanted, to get some clicks. Tammy Duckworth is really good at that, getting clicks. But here's Democrat Senator Kristen Gillibrand. She went on an insufferable rant here, folks, about Pete Hegseth over comments that he made on a podcast about women serving in the military. And she didn't even really have a point to make here. If there was a point, she didn't make it. And the fact that she refuses to act rationally about it tells me all I really need to know about this woman and why she's asking Pete Hegseth these questions. She didn't even really want to talk about this. Okay, there is definitely a discussion to be had whether women should be serving in the military. And there's physical requirements, and there is a discussion to be had. And the fact that she refused to act rationally and ask serious questions, and instead she got up there and yelled at Pete Hegseth, tells me that she's not a serious person. Tells me she had no point to make other than to get out there and get some clicks.
So women you have denigrated. You have also denigrated members of the LGBTQ community. Did you know that when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was in place, we lost so many crucial personnel, over 1,000 in mission critical areas. We lost 10% of all our foreign language speakers because of a political policy. You said in your statement, you don't want politics in the DOD. Everything you've said in these public statements is politics. I don't want women. I don't want moms. What's wrong with a mom, by the way? Once you have babies, you therefore are no longer able to be lethal. I mean, you're basically saying women after they have children can't ever serve in the military in a combat role. It's a silly thing to say. It's a silly thing to say beneath the position that you are aspiring to. To denigrate LGBTQ service members is a mistake. If you are a sharpshooter, you're as lethal regardless of what your gender identity is, regardless of who you love. So please know this to be a true statement. So
all right, that's enough of that. She didn't ask a single question there, folks. I'm pretty sure that this hearing is supposed to be, they ask questions of Pete Hegseth and he's supposed to answer. This was just yelling at Pete Hegseth. And really what this was about was to get an edited clip out there and to prove that she schooled him, which she didn't, because she even said it's about combat roles. He doesn't believe women should serve in combat roles. If you did some polls, I guarantee that most people would say that they don't want women serving in combat roles, specifically in units with men. Combat units with men. Okay. So it's just a recipe for disaster. The whole hearing was a complete clown show. Let's get to this one. This is Senator Shaheen. And she asked the question, do you know how much of our military is composed of women? They're really on this one about him saying on a podcast that women shouldn't serve in combat roles. There is a legitimate conversation to be had here, folks, and this conversation didn't happen the whole time during the hearing. They just yelled at him. So take a listen to this. Here we go.
Comprised of women.
I believe it's 18 to 20%, Senator.
It's almost 18%. And in fact, DOD's 2023 demographic report indicated that there are more women serving now and there are fewer separations. So they make up a critical part of our military. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, ma'am. Women in our military, as I have said publicly, have and continue to make amazing contributions across all aspects of our battlefield.
Well, you also write in your book, The War on Warriors, with the chapter, The Deadly Obsession with Women Warriors, that, quote, not only are women comparatively less effective than men in combat roles, but they are more likely to be objectified by the enemy and their own nation in the moral realms of war. Mr. Hegseth, should we take it to believe that you believe that the two women on this committee who have served honorably and with distinction made our military less effective and less capable?
I'm incredibly grateful for the two women who've served our military in uniform and including in the Central Intelligence Agency, contributions on the battlefield, indispensable contributions. Senator, I would like to clarify, when I'm talking about that issue, it's not about the capabilities of men and women, it's about standards. And this committee has talked a lot about standards. Standards that we, unfortunately, over time, have seen eroded in certain duty positions, certain schools, certain places, which affects readiness, which is what I care about the most, readiness
I
on the battlefield.
appreciate that.
And so my comments point
however,
time and time again to standards.
your statements publicly have not been to that effect. After your nomination, you did state to a group of reporters that you, quote, support all women serving in our military.
Okay. So, I mean, it just got worse from there. What's so infuriating about all of this is that Democrats, they will take something out of context. For example, she quoted from his book, and it's not even the least bit controversial. Okay, what we're talking about here, he's talking about readiness. He's talking about physical requirements. And what we've done is we've eroded the standards of the military. We've chipped away at these physical requirements in order for women to serve in combat roles. And we've change the standards, and we shouldn't do that. We should be all about military battlefield readiness. No one should be given an advantage in the military solely because of insignificant birth rates. Nobody should be given roles or positions because of their insignificant birth rates. They should meet a physical requirement, and if they can't do it, then they shouldn't be in the military serving on the battlefield, because it not only puts their team at risk, it puts the country at risk, and it puts themselves at risk. And that's what Pete Hegseth has been talking about with this issue with women serving in combat roles. There's a reason why women aren't drafted, folks. Okay. I mean, we have the entire draft system, and the draft system pulls from men. Okay, so this isn't even a controversial issue to be talking about, because clearly we draft men for a reason. They can meet those physical requirements. It's not that women aren't strong, it's just that men are more effective on the battlefield physically. And these people just don't care about context. As long as they get their rants out there, they get those screaming clips out there, and they can take that back to their blue-haired constituents and say, hey, look what I did. Okay, and they go on these rants, and they can't even comprehend the reasons why they go on these rants. It's because their campaign people said, hey, go on a rant and scream. We're going to edit these clips, and then we're going to bring those back to the blue-haired constituents in your district, and they're going to vote for you again. because that's what these people care about. It's not about legislation. It's not about what Pete Hegseth can do in the role as defense secretary. They don't care about any of that. They care about their jobs and getting reelected. And that's what this whole hearing was about. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. We're going to be right back. I don't like Carrie Underwood, period. Only thing I like her music, but that's all. Was not best American Idol, period. Yeah, I mean, whatever your take is, I'm not like super into, music and the mechanics of music and, what's classified as good or bad. I really like the sound of Carrie Underwood personally. And I think that she's a good person. And I don't think that you can make any kind of arguments against that. And the lyrics definitely show, Jesus Take the Wheel. There's one song, oh gosh, it's something about a tornado and Carrie Underwood. I'm actually going to look up the name of this song. Blown Away has an amazing meaning behind the lyrics, and I think that overall she's a good person, especially when compared to the Taylor Swifts of the world. Okay, so I'm excited for her to be performing at the inauguration along with Kid Rock, Rascal Flatts, Jason Aldean. There's so many good ones. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Pete Hegseth. The media does not care about bringing American people the truth. They're not going to bring the American people the truth about Pete Hegseth and what his position actually is when it comes to women serving in combat zones, because they have an agenda and they can't ignore that agenda, and they got to push that agenda out there. So they're going to edit clips and they're going to, push out that Pete Hegseth is a sexist and a misogynist and a racist. They're just going to go for that agenda, and that's what this is really all about. This hearing was about getting those clips and pushing this agenda further. And that's exactly why, folks, the left lost the election. Okay, the American people see this for what it is. We know that Pete Hegseth he's got a wife and kids. We know that he's not a sexist. We know that he's coming at this very non-controversial issue about women serving in combat roles. It shouldn't even be controversial, considering we don't even draft women for the military. I mean, there's a reason why we do that. It's because they can't typically meet the physical requirements that it takes to be out on the battlefield. But the media has become completely irrelevant because they're not willing to tell the whole truth about Pete Hegseth and his position on this issue. I do want to get to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. He accused Democrat senators of being drunk on the job, and he pointed to their blatant hypocrisy of holding Pete Hegseth to a standard that they could never attain. Okay, so the Democrat senators, and that's one thing that you need to know about Illinois politics as well. Senators, legislators, I actually witnessed with my eyeballs two Democrats going up to each other and two men, Democrats, going up to each other and smacking each other on the butts in the State House or in the Capitol. I watched this, and the best way I can describe what goes on in politics is it's people who never wanted to leave college but had to leave college, and they got into the public sector, and they just took their frat parties and sorority parties over to the Capitol. Okay, that's what Illinois politics is like, and that's what federal politics is like. These people, a lot of them, I won't say all of them, but a lot of them are public sector losers who never wanted to leave college, and they never wanted to, make a business, create anything, sell a product, provide a service. They didn't want to do any of that. They didn't actually want to work, so they decided to go into the public sector. And all they have to worry about is sounding cool for their constituents, which is why they came up with a bunch of these rants. These Democrats ranted during this hearing so they can show their blue-haired constituents what they did during the hearing to Pete Hegseth. So that's what this is all about. I'm back. And good morning. So I do appreciate you tuning in each and every single morning. I got one more clip that I want to share with you, or a couple more clips from the Pete Hegseth hearings. And look, folks, the media isn't going to tell you the truth about Pete Hegseth's position when it comes to women in combat roles. This isn't a controversial issue. We don't draft women. And there's a reason why we don't draft women. And it's because a lot of the time they can't meet the physical requirements it takes to be out on the battlefield and to be battlefield ready. It's just a fact, okay? And I say that as a very physically fit woman, okay? I can lift very heavy, but I promise you every single time I'm in the gym, I look over to my left, there's a man lifting 3 times my weight with ease, okay? 3 times the weight I'm lifting with ease, okay? So I say that as a woman who is pretty physically fit. I don't think I could ever meet some of the physical requirements of, say, like a Navy SEAL. There is no Navy SEAL woman. Okay, there has never been one because there is no woman who has been able to meet those physical requirements of a Navy SEAL. It's all about battlefield readiness. There's a reason why we don't draft women. Okay, it's not even a controversial issue, but they've made it controversial by ranting, and really they're ranting for reasons that they can't even comprehend. It's because their campaign team says, hey, you need to go out there and you need to scream at Pete Hegseth. You need to say this, this, and this. And it's political theater. So they can get these edited clips. They can go back to their blue-haired constituents in their district and they can say, hey, see, I went after Pete Hegseth. Vote for me again. That's what they do every single time. So take a listen to this guy. This is Senator Roger Wicker. Here we go.
So from story after story in the media, left-wing media, we saw anonymous source after anonymous source based on second or third-hand accounts. And time again, stories would come out and people would reach out to me and say, I've spoken to this reporter about who you really are, and I was willing to go on the record. But they didn't print my quote. They didn't print any of my quotes. Or I've worked with you for 10 years, or I was your accountant, or I was your chief operating officer, or I was your board member, or I was with you on 100 different tour stops for Concerned Veterans for America. No one called me. No one asked about your conduct on the record or off the record. Instead, a small handful of anonymous sources were allowed to drive a smear campaign, an agenda about me, because our left-wing media in America today, sadly, doesn't care about the truth. All they were out to do, Mr. Chairman, was to destroy me. And why do they want to destroy me? Because I'm a change agent and a threat to them, because Donald Trump was willing to choose me, to empower me, to bring the Defense Department back to what it really should be, which is warfighting. So I'm willing to endure these attacks. But what I will do is stand up for the truth and for my reputation. False attacks, anonymous attacks, repeated ad nauseum, printed as nauseum, as facts. We have provided to the committee, Mr. Chairman, and I know you're going to share, on the record statement after on the record statement from people who have served with me, worked with me at Fox News, Concerned Vets, Vets for Freedom, you name it, from the top of the chain to the bottom, who will say, I treat them with respect, with kindness, with dignity. That's men, that's women, that's black, that's white, that's every background. I have prided myself as a leader of respecting people, being professional. That is the balance of mine. I'm not a perfect person, as has been acknowledged. Saved by the grace of God, by Jesus and Jenny. I'm not a perfect person, but redemption is real. And God forged me in ways that I know I'm prepared for. And I'm honored by the people standing and sitting behind me, and look forward to leading this Pentagon on behalf of the warfighters.
Thank you.
Okay, so Senator Roger Wicker, he's a Republican, and he asked, Pete Hegseth to comment on some of these accusations that have been made in the media. And the media doesn't care about bringing the American people the truth, not about his position on women in combat roles, not about, him being an alcoholic of some kind or being a cheater. I mean, there have been lies about Pete Hegseth, and all of them were from anonymous sources. Back in the day, when you went after somebody's reputation, you had to use your name, by the way. And if this were to happen back in the day, like 1800s, Hegseth could challenge you to a duel and you'd lose your life. If you lied about a man's reputation, that was a big deal. I want to get to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. He accused Democrat senators of being drunk on the job. I was telling folks on the stream, look, folks, I've seen the way government kind of runs. Illinois government at the Capitol in Springfield. I've seen what goes on at Washington, D.C. I've been there. I've talked to the congressmen and women. The best way I describe it to people is that it's a bunch of people who never wanted to leave college, but they had to leave college, and they went into the public sector. They didn't want to create a product. They didn't want to go into the private sector. They didn't want to make anything or provide a service. They didn't actually want to work. So they went into the public sector, and they took their frat parties, they took their sorority parties, and they brought them to the Capitol. Okay, they brought them, that's Illinois government. I witnessed with my eyeballs two Democrat men smack each other on the butt under the dome of the Capitol in Illinois. Okay. And they were giggling and whatever. And, it's all fun. It's all fine. But it's the blatant hypocrisy that gets me. The blatant hypocrisy of holding Pete Hegseth and Republicans to a standard that they would never attain. Okay. These are not decent people. I mean, hell, you had a staffer filming pornographic material in one of these Senate rooms. I'd have to pull up the guy's name, but I forget it. Take a listen to this. This is a Republican senator, and he talks about the blatant hypocrisy of these individuals who are attacking Pete Hegseth and his character. Take a listen.
Of the Secretary of Defense is, because I Googled it and went through a lot of different sites, and really it's hard to see, but in general, the U.S. Secretary of Defense position is filled by a civilian. That's it. If you have served in the U.S. Army Forces and have been in the service for, you have to be retired for at least 7 years, and Congress can weigh that. And then there's questions that the senator from Massachusetts brought up about serving on a board inside the military industry, and yet your own secretary that you all voted for, Secretary of Austin, we had to vote on a waiver because he stepped off the board of Raytheon. But I guess that's okay because that's a Democrat Secretary of Defense. But you so quickly forget about that, and then Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No, but it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too.
All right. Well, that was, like I said, Mark Wayne Mullen. He's a senator, and he was not having it when it came to the foolish liberal hypocrisy. Just to let you guys know, that Senate staffer I was talking about who filmed the gay sex tape in the Senate hearing room, by the way, actually probably where they're at for the Senate confirmation hearings. He filmed a pornography video, or a porn video, and it was a congressional staffer, a Democrat congressional staffer. So when these people, go after Pete Hegseth's character, they're doing it in a very they've got a big plank in their eye, and he was not having it, the hypocrisy Mullen. And this is exactly why that saying I always say, the only standards Democrats have are double standards. Okay, that's why that saying exists. It's because of situations like this. Lloyd Austin is like I said, he's got all the experience in the world. He's got a CVS receipt, long titles list and experience. However, he screwed up in Afghanistan, killed, I will say it, Joe Biden, Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, they killed those 13 American service members. They didn't have to die in that withdrawal. Lloyd Austin took medical leave without telling the president. There's so many different things that Lloyd Austin did. He made battlefield readiness and standards a thing of the past in the military. You can get into the military, high military positions because of insignificant birth rates or your preferences in the bedroom. He did all of that under his leadership of as Secretary of Defense. These people spend their efforts on their comical political theater, and it's not fooling anyone. We all know that you're participating in political theater. We know that this was all hypocrisy. We know that you actually don't care if Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense, or even if Lloyd Austin. You just want somebody in there with a D behind their name, so that way you can tell your constituents, oh, we've got Democrat Secretary of Defense. And the fact that the Senate Dems have the nerve to claim he's unqualified to lead the Defense Department is deeply unserious. They have the nerve to claim that he's unqualified because he lacks experience. I want to play, here we go. This is a nauseating meltdown from Senator Tammy Duckworth. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. Tammy Duckworth went on a rant about how he's never conducted an audit, and that, I'm sorry, is not the requirement of the Secretary of Defense. You don't need to have conducted an audit in the past. Here's an Illinois senator that's been elected by Illinoisans. Take a listen. Here we go. This is embarrassing.
Have you led an audit of any organization? Yes or no? I don't want a long answer. Yes or no? Have you led an audit of any organization of which you were in charge?
Senator, in both of the organizations I ran, we were always completely fiscally responsible.
Yes or
with the
no?
money
Did
that
you
we
lead
had.
an audit?
And the way
yes
my
or
leadership
no?
has
Did you lead
been
an audit?
stated
Yes or
has
no?
been completely
What are you afraid of? You
mischaracterized.
can't answer this question. Yes or no? Did you lead an audit? Do you not know this answer?
Senator,
Yes
every
or
part
no?
of my leadership
Yes
of these
or no?
organizations
Yes
has
or
been
no? Did you lead an audit?
misrepresented
I will
from
take
top
that
to
as a
bottom.
no. What were the findings? So there were no findings because you've never led an audit. What guidance did you give the auditors? None, because you've never led an audit. Nobody expects you to be an accountant, Mr. Hegseth. What we expect is for you to understand the complexity of this Pentagon budget process that is absolutely necessary to outfit our warfighters. Look, the Secretary of Defense is required to make quick decisions every single day that, well, with high-level information that's being provided for them.
Okay, is it just me, or does it sound like she's like quite literally reading off of a script here? Like she's pausing, she's stuttering. I think she's reading off of a script, like right down to when she has to take a breath.
Secretary of Defense has to have breadth and depth of knowledge. Right now, I am concerned that you have neither. Mr. Hegseth, what is the highest level of international negotiations that you have engaged in, that you have led in? Because the Secretary of Defense does lead international security negotiations. There are three main ones that the Secretary of Defense leads and signs. Can you name at least one of them?
Could you repeat the question, Senator?
Sure. What is the highest?
Can you repeat the question, Senator? I know Pete Hegseth was probably he was probably just like zoning out listening to this woman rant. She has no idea why she's going on this rant either, by the way. Like I said, it's the people who run her campaign. They're telling her to do this so that way they can edit clips, take it back to her constituents or blue-haired constituents, and she can get reelected.
Level of international security agreement that you have led, and can you name some that the Secretary of Defense would lead? There's three main ones. Do you know?
I have not been involved in international security arrangements because I have not been in government other than
Okay.
serving in the military. So my job has been
So
to
no, the
lead
answer is no.
men
Can
and
you
women in
name one of the
combat.
3 main ones that the
You're
Secretary
talking
of
about
Defense
defense
signs?
arrangements. I mean, NATO might be one that you're referring to.
Status of Forces Agreement would be one of them.
Status of forces agreement. I've been a part of teaching
So-
about status of forces agreements.
But you don't
inside
remember to
Afghanistan.
mention it? You're not qualified, Mr. Hexeth. You're not qualified. You talk about repairing our defense industrial complex. You're not qualified to that. You could do acquisition and cross.
You're not qualified. You're not qualified, Mr. Hexeth. Okay, look, Lloyd Austin is qualified in the eyes of the Democrats. And guess what Lloyd Austin did? He got 13 U.S. service members killed. This was a terrible, terrible withdrawal from Afghanistan. They left billions and billions of dollars of equipment. I'm going to say it right now. A guy without all of this institutional baggage, I think that Pete Hegseth is the better bet. And the fact that the left demands all of that is a disgrace, okay, is a disgrace to this country to demand that you have this laundry list of credentials. I mean, come on, this is America here. People are put into positions of leadership to represent people, average people. Okay. And this is one of the major reasons why they lost the election. The Democrat Party is the party of war now. Okay. These senators, it's unclear. I don't know. Maybe Tammy Duckworth, it's unclear if she and other senators showed up drunk while pretending to represent the American people. But like I said, the Democrats have become the party of war, whether they like to admit it or not. I got to take a quick break. You're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9. Duckworth list. Women aren't drafted because no one is being drafted. In 2020, a commission urged Congress to eliminate male-only registration. There are tons of jobs in branches that don't require combat readiness. Don't be so small-minded, okay? What's the results of the 2020 commission? By the way, here, Dan, and what's the results here? The results is that we still have male-only registration for the draft. And there's a reason why we have male-only registration for the draft is because when we're in a draft situation, that means you're going to have to send people into combat. Okay, that's what that means. And they don't want women. Okay, people don't want women in combat readiness. If you ask this question, I'm willing to bet, and I haven't looked at the surveys recently, but if you ask the question, should women be drafted? Most women will tell you absolutely not. Most men will say no. And it's really unfortunate that we have walked away from this. Really, it was a staple in American society and culture that we protect women and children. And we've walked away from that principle, and we've abandoned that principle as Americans. And it's really unfortunate. The reason why women don't serve in combat roles or shouldn't serve in combat roles is because you are blatantly just throwing them into an unprotected, dangerous position. Okay, they will be totally unprotected because they cannot meet the physical requirements. There's a reason why there are no women Navy SEALs, because they can't actually meet the physical requirements. Thank God we haven't changed the standards surrounding Navy SEALs to allow women. Yes, typically you don't usually go into a draft unless you are in wartime. Okay, drafts are used in war, and to draft somebody, that you have to assume that they'd be combat ready. Okay, and there's a reason why the draft does not pull women. Okay, because that means you're in a time of war and you might have to go into combat. So I just don't understand. What are you arguing? Do you want women to go and get their heads blown off? I mean, I just come out and say it then, that you want women to serve in combat roles, and that you don't care about the protection of women, and you don't care that they are physically unable to serve in these combat roles, or physically unable in comparison to men. Okay, so combat, I mean, men, women, here's where equality is. You can die in combat whether you're a man or woman, okay, but you're more likely to die if you are a woman. okay, because of the physical requirements and the physical capabilities needed in that combat role. So I don't understand. Yes, a draft is only going to be used likely in a situation where there's war broken out somewhere and we've declared war on a country, and they're most likely going to have to pull from the men and send those men to combat. We don't have enough people who are in the current military to serve in those combat roles. I don't even understand what you're arguing here. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say that you don't care if women go to the front lines and get their heads blown off. Okay, that's totally fine to have that position. That tells me that, you know, you don't have the principle of protecting women and children, more vulnerable people in our society, in America, and more vulnerable people in the world. Yeah, and that's a fine position to have. It's wrong, and quite frankly immoral. But you can have that position. Just come out and say that. Stop arguing with me about, oh, the draft is only for combat draftees. Yeah, typically, I mean, I don't understand. Like, yeah, usually you're only going to be drafting people when you're in a position of war, and most likely those people who are drafted are going to go to combat, or at least they should be ready to go to combat, because you're only drafting in a position of war, or when you're in a position where you've declared war on another country. That's probably the only time we'll see a draft. So I don't understand it. We are going to get to Donald Trump. I want to get to Donald Trump talking about the incompetence of not firefighters, but he's only gone after politicians. Your Gavin Newsoms, your Karen Basses. He hasn't gone after the LA firefighters. I have. There's 3 lesbians with a variation of Kristen to their name, or like a variation of Kristen their name. And they did not get into that position, I don't believe, based on merit or based on their physical readiness to pull people out of a fire. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of these women in these leadership roles within the LA Fire Department, they're overweight. And I don't think that they'd be physically able to pull people out of a fire if needed. Okay, which tells me that they're not there based on merit. It's unclear if they're there based on merit. It seems like they're based on their bedroom preferences. Okay, so Donald Trump, he didn't go after the LA firefighters at all. I have. I've gone after the LA fire chief. I've gone after the assistant chief. They're all, I believe, incompetent. Actually had, I think it was the assistant fire chief. Her name was Christine, something like that. She came out and she said that when people make the phone call to the fire department, they're hoping that somebody comes out who looks like them. I'm sorry, but people who call into the fire department, they don't care who responds. Okay, they just want somebody to respond and pull them out of a fire. And the fact that she came out on a video, an official video, and said that that's what people want, tells me all I really need to know about her competence. Good morning. Hey, you're listening to Conservative Cat on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel. He was weepy. He was very, very weepy here, folks. And he got out and he was crying because Donald Trump, I guess, said negative things about firefighters, or at least he alleges that Donald Trump said negative things about firefighters, which is not true at all. Now, I definitely have been critical of the LA Fire Department. The 3 Christines, who are also lesbians, variations. They have names that are, Kristen, Kirsten, whatever. There's 3 of them, and they operate the LA Fire Department. One of them, the assistant fire chief, actually came out in an official video and said that the only reason why, or the people call into the fire department and they want somebody of the same skin color or the same sexual preference to come out and save them. No, I think that when people call into the fire department, they're hoping that somebody comes out to pull them out of a fire. So like I said, I've gone after the firefighters in LA, at least the leadership of the LA Fire Department, not the people who are putting their lives at risk. Donald Trump has only said positive things about all of the firefighters putting their lives at risk to fight the blaze. And this is a blaze that should have never happened. And he has not talked about the skin color of any of the first responders, Donald Trump. But despite these facts, Jimmy Kimmel got out there and he started weeping and gaslighting his viewers into thinking that Donald Trump got out there and said that the firefighters weren't white enough, and that's why the blazes continued.
As you know, it has been a very scary, very stressful, very strange week here in LA, where we work, where we live, where our kids go to school. We are back in our studio, which we had to evacuate on Wednesday. That's our building right there, the El Capitan. That is how close this fire was to our theater here. Many of us had to leave our homes in a hurry. Some of our coworkers lost their homes. That's Hollywood. It's been terrible. It's been terrible. Everyone who lives in the city knows someone, most of us, multiple people, families, friends, colleagues, neighbors whose houses burned down. And the truth is, we don't even know if it's over. We had 100-mile-per-hour winds fueling this nightmare. As of tonight, the winds are back. And I think I speak for all of us when I say it has been a sickening, shocking, awful experience, but has also been, in a lot of ways, a beautiful experience, because once again, we see our fellow men and women coming together to support each other. People who lost their own homes were out volunteering in parking lots, helping others who lost theirs. And tonight, I don't want to get into all the vile and irresponsible and stupid things our alleged future president and his gaggle of scumbags chose to say during our darkest and most terrifying hour. The fact that they chose to attack our firefighters, who apparently aren't white enough to be out there risking their lives on our behalf, it's disgusting, but it's not surprising.
All right. Well, I've got to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to unpack that. This is just so stupid. And he's lying. Okay. And you cannot convince people that Donald Trump is racist if you solely resort to facts. You can't do it. Donald Trump is not racist when you use facts. He's lying. Donald Trump, I'm going to read Donald Trump's Truth Social, what he put out there on Truth Social, and you're going to be like, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel straight up lied just now. I'll be right back. You're listening to Conservative Cat. Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. That was Jimmy Kimmel. The Democrats have reduced the physical requirements to include those who are not capable. Yes. Are capable to perform physical capabilities required to do the job of firefighters in the military. Or the military, yes. Only a very, very small percentage of females are capable to perform at the physical capabilities required to do a job of a firefighter in the military, yes. Yeah, so I mean, nothing against women, but combat roles. That is what Pete Hegseth has said. And there's just so much lies out there, like, oh, women can't serve in the military. There's plenty of different roles that women can serve in the military that don't require them to go out into the battlefield and serve with a unit of men, by the way, okay? Men, if you are a man, and I'm not talking like a soy boy, I'm crying, and I'm getting weepy and teary-eyed Jimmy Kimmel type of man. If you are a man, you understand that when you're around other men, you say things, you do things that can be seen as inappropriate to women. You can be very crass. I mean, that's just the way men are when you get a bunch of testosterone together in one space. You're asking for a disaster it's a disaster waiting to happen when you put typically maybe one female in a combat unit, okay, in a combat role. If you put one female in there, it just changes the entire dynamic. Men naturally, and I'm not talking the soy boy, tofu eating men out there, men naturally will want to protect women in the unit, not only just women, but everybody in their unit, but more so women. Okay, you feel an obligation to protect women. That's what men do. It's innate. It is biological, which is why we hold that principle so dear and near to our hearts as Americans, which is why we draft only men for the military, okay? But if you are constantly going to save this damsel in distress, okay? And I hate to, use that term. People understand what I'm talking about when I say damsel in distress. There is an innate biological reaction that men have to protect women when they're in danger, okay? My parents got into a nasty car wreck. We'll finish that story here up in just a second. They got into a nasty car wreck, and my dad, he was injured himself, but automatically went to go save my mom, and didn't even think about his own injuries. And it's just something innate and biological within men, and that puts the rest of the team in danger if you're constantly going to save this female because of this innate response that you have. I'm back. Hold on. All right, let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel here. Here's what Truth Social, Donald Trump said on Truth Social, quote, and I'm quoting here, "The fires are still raging in LA. The incompetent polls have no idea how to put them out. Thousands of magnificent homes are gone and many more will soon be lost. There is death all over the place. This is the worst, one of the worst catastrophic events in history. In the history of our country, they just can't put out the fires. What's wrong with them?" So he's talking about the politicians here. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel understands the Truth Social where he calls them incompetent polls. That's short for incompetent politicians. That's who he's talking about. He's not talking about the firefighters. He didn't mention race at all or the color of the firefighters at all in that sentence on Truth Social. When Trump says they can't put out the fires, he's not talking about the first responders. He's talking about the incompetent politicians that ultimately made decisions for 5 years from 2019 to 2025 that ultimately led to this wildfire getting so out of hand that, yes, the first responders, the firefighters, cannot put them out on the ground because that's how massive these fires are. And it's impossible, and they've made it nearly impossible to put the fires out. In other words, you cannot put out fire without water, with depriving the state of the water that was Governor Gavin Newsom. You also can't put it out when your budget has been cut by $17 million. Thank you, Mayor Karen Bass. So while Jimmy has decided to make a statement here, really it's a lie, and that this has everything to do with racism and Donald Trump. People with IQs, Jimmy, above 75 know that that's not true. They know that Donald Trump is not racist. They know that he's not out there saying that the firefighters are not white enough, and that's why that they can't fight the fires. Nobody's saying that. I'm saying, and what other pundits have said, or what other people have said, representatives, they've said that, hey, let's do merit-based, none of this DEI stuff where we have 3 lesbians in leadership positions, which I wouldn't even care about their sexual preferences. But here's the thing. I know that they probably cannot, and until I see video evidence, they cannot pull people out of a fire, based on their size in the LA Fire Department. We need to be hiring merit-based, physical-based firefighters who go in and get the job done. And Donald Trump hasn't commented on the firefighters' DEI policies at all. He was talking about Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and their incompetence. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. I love you. Find me on YouTube, and you guys can subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow morning bright and early at 6 a.m. You guys be blessed, and we'll talk again soon. All right, go ahead, smash that like button. Yeah, 100%, like I said, merit-based. My dad, my mom, automatically, he wasn't even thinking about his own injuries. He was already thinking about the woman in the car because it's a biological, innate, inevitable thing. Where men will want to protect women. And if you put one person over the rest of the team, or if you treat one person differently over the rest of the team in a combat role in the military, that's not only going to put your team at risk, it's going to put that person at risk. It's a terrible situation. There's a reason why we still pull men for the military draft or for the draft. It's because women typically cannot meet certain physical requirements, and the women that do, good, great. If you can meet a physical requirement to be in a combat role, great, go ahead, do it. If you can meet a physical requirement to be a Navy SEAL, go ahead, do it. All the more power to you. However, we can't ignore that there is a biological difference between men and women tend to not, they're never able to meet those physical requirements. That's why there's never been a female Navy SEAL. Look it up. And they haven't touched the standards of a Navy SEAL, thank God. But yes, they keep eroding the standards for our military, and the Secretary of Defense job is for battlefield readiness. And I think Pete Hegseth has a great outlook, great philosophy. And I think that he's going to do great in that position. Spewing lies. All right, Ellen. I don't know what lies I shared with what Jimmy Kimmel had said. I played this video, this clip. This is his words coming out of his mouth, and then I read for you, quoting Donald Trump on Truth Social. He never mentioned firefighters at all. Perhaps Jimmy Kimmel was talking about maybe some other Republicans who have come out and criticized the fire department's DEI policies and how they hire not based on merit, but rather in significant birth rates. Perhaps that's what he's talking about. But he specifically in this clip that I just played for you talked about Donald Trump calling the firefighters incompetent because they're not white. Not white enough. That's what he said here in this clip. And I read for you verbatim what Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social about the incompetent politicians. He talked about Governor Gavin Newsom, who's white, by the way, and Karen Bass, and their incompetence surrounding the LA wildfires. All right, you guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much.